Humanity always believed first contact would change history. Nobody expected it to end history instead. The final signal from Earth arrived at exactly 3:17 Galactic Standard Time. No warning. No distress beacon. No evacuation order. Just a single transmission broadcast across every colony in human space. 5 words. Do not return to Earth. Then silence. Absolute silence. Commander Adrian Vale stared at the frozen communication screen aboard the deep space carrier Argus while alarms echoed across the bridge. Earth had vanished. Not physically. The planet still appeared on long-range scans. The moon still orbited it. The ocean still reflected sunlight. But every human signal coming from the Sol system had stopped simultaneously. No ships answered hails. No satellites transmitted data. No military channels responded. It was as if 20 billion people had simply ceased to exist at the exact same moment. A cold weight settled into Adrian's chest. Because only one thing in recorded history had ever caused silence on that scale. Extinction. Around him, the bridge crew exchanged nervous glances while static hissed through dead communication speakers. Outside the massive observation windows, the stars drifted silently across endless darkness. Then the sensors detected movement. A ship. No. Not a ship. Something far larger. Emerging from the edge of the Sol system. The object moved slowly at first, almost peacefully. Then the scans updated. And updated again. The bridge AI failed 3 consecutive size calculations before finally displaying a result. Length. 27,000 kilometers. Nobody spoke. The thing was larger than entire moons. A colossal black structure drifted through space like the corpse of a dead god. Its surface looked smooth from a distance, but as the carrier zoomed closer, Adrian realized the structure was moving. Not mechanically. Biologically. The surface pulsed like living flesh. Massive veins of dim crimson light crawled beneath black metallic skin stretching across impossible distances. Lieutenant Marachin whispered the words nobody wanted to say. That thing is alive. Then the structure opened. Across the endless black surface, millions of glowing white eyes ignited simultaneously. Every eye turned toward the Argus. Toward them. The carrier's systems immediately began failing. Lights flickered violently. Navigation collapsed. The oxygen recyclers shut down for 3 terrifying seconds. Crew members grabbed consoles as the entire ship trembled. Then the sound began. A low-frequency vibration. Not heard through ears. Felt inside bones. Inside thoughts. Inside memory itself. Several crew members dropped to their knees screaming. Blood leaked from noses and ears. One navigator began clawing at his own face while repeating the same sentence again and again. It's inside my head. Adrian forced himself toward the command console. Get us out of here. The helmsman looked up slowly. Terrified. We can't. Every engine display had gone dark. The carrier was dead in space. And the giant thing was still watching them. Then the transmission arrived. Not through radio. Not through speakers. Directly inside their minds. A voice older than humanity whispered. We found you again. The stars outside disappeared. Not because they went dark. Because something enormous moved between the carrier and the universe itself. Adrian looked upward through the observation glass. And saw the face. A colossal human face stretched across the black surface of the living structure. Expressionless. Lifeless. Its eyes glowing with dead white light. Its skin fused into the flesh of the cosmic entity itself. Then Adrian recognized it. President Elias Mercer. The man who had disappeared during Earth's final evacuation 20 years earlier. Except this was not Mercer anymore. The mouth slowly opened. And billions of voices screamed from inside it. We warned you not to come home. The bridge exploded into chaos. Emergency bulkheads slammed shut. The AI began repeating evacuation protocols. Outside the carrier, thousands more living structures emerged from the darkness surrounding Earth. Humanity had not lost contact with Earth. Earth had become something else. Adrian ordered the ship into emergency lockdown. But the Argus no longer obeyed. Doors opened by themselves. Lights died corridor by corridor. Something was moving inside the walls. Mara grabbed Adrian's arm. "Commander, Deck 7 just vanished." Adrian stared at her. "What do you mean vanished?" She turned the monitor toward him. Deck 7 was still physically attached to the ship. But every camera showed only darkness. Not power failure. Not smoke. Darkness. A living shadow spreading through the metal like ink through water. Then the screaming began. Marines stationed on Deck 7 opened fire. Their gunshots echoed through the comms. Then one by one, their voices disappeared. Not cut off. Deleted. As if the people speaking had never existed. Adrian felt the same low vibration return inside his skull. The voice whispered again. "You built ships to escape death." A pause. How beautiful. The floor beneath the bridge cracked. Black fluid seeped upward through the metal. It moved slowly at first. A thin shining line between the panels. Then it widened. It spread across the deck like oil with intent. Where it touched the floor, the metal softened. Where it touched cables, the cables twitched like nerves. Where it touched blood, it drank. Adrian stepped back slowly. "Mara, seal the bridge." "I'm trying." Her fingers flew across the console. Nothing responded. The black fluid reached the body of the navigator who had collapsed near the front station. For one breath, nothing happened. Then the corpse inhaled. The dead man's spine arched violently. His fingers snapped backward. His jaw opened far wider than human anatomy allowed. A sound came out of him. Not a scream. A signal. The entire bridge shook as every dead monitor turned on at once. Each screen showed Earth. Blue. Beautiful. Peaceful. Then the image changed. The oceans turned black. The clouds twisted into spirals. Cities folded inward like paper crushed by invisible hands. Mountains opened like wounds. And beneath the Pacific Ocean, something enormous opened one giant eye. Mara covered her mouth. "Oh my God." The dead navigator sat upright. His eyes were gone. Only white light remained. When he spoke, his voice was no longer human. "God did not answer you." His head tilted slowly toward Adrian. "So we did." Sergeant Lena Cross entered the bridge with 12 Marines before anyone could react. Their armor was scorched. Their faces were pale. One of them was missing an arm. Lena raised her rifle and fired 3 rounds into the dead navigator's chest. The body fell backward. The black fluid around it recoiled. For 1 second, everyone breathed again. Then the corpse laughed. Not loudly. Softly. Almost kindly. Lena fired again. This time the head burst apart. White light sprayed across the wall. The bridge went silent except for the alarms. Lena looked directly at Adrian. "We need to leave this system." Adrian nodded toward the dead controls. "Engines are gone. Then we restart them." "With what?" Lena removed a cracked data drive from her armor and threw it onto the command table. "With this." Mara picked it up carefully. Her eyes widened. This is Europa military encryption. Lena's expression hardened. Because I was on Europa. The bridge became completely silent. Everyone knew Europa. Everyone knew the official story. 20 years ago, humanity discovered the first Atlas gate buried beneath Europa's ice. A perfect circular structure made from black stone no tool could cut and no scanner could identify. Scientists called it a transportation device. The military called it the future. A bridge across galaxies. A miracle. Then Captain Noah Reyes and 100 soldiers entered the gate complex. Only one transmission came back. Screaming. After that, Europa base vanished. Not destroyed. Vanished. The entire facility. 40,000 people. Gone beneath the ice. The government sealed the moon. The files disappeared. The survivors were silenced. And now Sergeant Lena Cross was standing on the bridge of the Argus saying she had been there. Adrian stared at her. That's impossible. Lena's eyes did not move. No. Impossible is what came out after we opened the gate. The carrier groaned violently. Somewhere far below the bridge, metal screamed. The living shadow was climbing through the ship. Lena pointed toward the tactical screen. That thing out there is not an alien fleet. Her voice lowered. It is a harvest body. Mara whispered softly. Harvest for what? Lena looked toward Earth. For whatever is wearing our planet. Another tremor rocked the bridge. The observation window cracked. A thin line spread across the reinforced glass. Then another. Then another. Outside, one of the moon-sized living structures drifted closer. Its white eyes blinked in sequence. Like it was counting. Adrian felt the voice again. Soft. Patient. Endless. You ran from home. The black fluid spread higher across the bridge walls. You crossed the dark. A human hand suddenly pressed against the outside of the observation glass. Massive. Transparent. Made of smoke and light. Then another hand appeared. And another. Thousands of ghostly human hands pressed against the observation glass from outside the carrier. But all children returned to the mother. Adrian grabbed the emergency sidearm from beneath his command chair. His hand was shaking. He hated that it was shaking. He had fought pirates in the outer belts. He had survived oxygen fires over Ceres. He had watched friends die in vacuum. But this was different. This was not war. This was something older than war. Something that looked at humanity the way humans looked at bacteria. Lena stepped beside him. Commander, the Helios core. Adrian turned slowly. No. It's the only thing on this ship old enough to scare them. The Helios core is illegal for a reason. So is surviving extinction. Mara looked between them nervously. What is the Helios core? Adrian did not answer immediately. Because even saying the name felt dangerous. The Helios core was not a normal engine. It was a weaponized failure. A forbidden prototype from the early dark drive era. It did not move a ship through space. It punched a temporary wound in reality itself and forced the ship through the bleeding edge. Half the pilots who tested it came back older. Some came back younger. Some returned speaking languages no human had ever heard. Humanity buried the project. But the Argus had been built during desperate times. And desperate ships carried desperate ghosts. Adrian looked toward the dead Earth. Then toward the spreading black fluid. Can it still fire? Mara checked the engineering feed with trembling hands. Barely. The core is cold, but intact. Lena chambered a round into her rifle. Then we go wake it up. The bridge door behind them suddenly began to deform. Metal bent inward slowly. Something was pressing against it from the other side. Once. Twice. A wet clicking sound echoed through the command deck. The Marines formed a firing line immediately. Adrian stared at the shaking door. Everyone who can hold a weapon, move. The lights went out. For 3 long seconds, the bridge was completely black. Then emergency red lighting returned. And the bridge door was open. A creature stood in the entrance. Tall. Thin. Wrong. Its body looked like a human stretched into the shape of an insect. Long arms dragged against the floor. Its ribs opened and closed like breathing blades. Its face was almost human. Almost. That was the worst part. Because Adrian recognized pieces of it. A cheekbone. A jawline. One blue human eye blinking inside the creature's throat. It wore the remains of a marine uniform fused into its skin. Lena whispered quietly. Deck 7. The creature smiled with too many mouths. Then it spoke using the voices of the missing Marines. Permission to come home, Commander. The Marines opened fire. The corridor exploded into light. The Argus shook violently as another impact rolled through the carrier. Somewhere deep below them, entire decks collapsed. Emergency lights flashed red across the corridor while terrified crew members ran in every direction. Adrian could hear screaming through the ventilation shafts. Not human screaming. Something else. Something mimicking human voices. A child crying. A woman begging for help. A man laughing hysterically. The sounds blended together into one endless nightmare echoing through the ship. Lena stopped suddenly near a sealed blast door. Wait. The Marines raised their rifles instantly. A soft knocking sound came from the other side of the door. 3 slow knocks. Then a familiar voice spoke. Please, let me in. One of the younger Marines froze. That's my brother. Lena grabbed his shoulder hard. Don't move. The voice came again. More desperate this time. Ethan, please. The Marine's hands trembled violently. He died on Europa. Another knock echoed through the corridor. Then another. Then dozens. The entire blast door began vibrating as hundreds of hands struck it from the other side. The metal bent inward slowly. Adrian backed away. What are they? Lena's expression darkened. They learn us. The door suddenly exploded inward. Darkness poured through the opening like floodwater. Shapes moved inside it. Tall. Thin. Wrong. Dozens of white eyes opened simultaneously inside the shadows. The Marines opened fire immediately. Gunfire lit the corridor in violent flashes while the creatures charged forward through the smoke. One of them moved across the ceiling like a spider. Another unfolded from inside the wall itself. A Marine screamed as black tendrils wrapped around his legs and dragged him backward into the darkness. His screams continued for several seconds. Then stopped abruptly. Then his voice returned from the darkness. Help me. Lena fired directly into the shadows. Run. The survivors sprinted through the collapsing corridor while alarms screamed overhead. Behind them, the darkness moved faster now. Like liquid intelligence flowing through the ship. Adrian could hear the creatures crawling inside the walls beside them. Keeping pace. Watching. Waiting. The carrier suddenly lost gravity. Everyone slammed into the ceiling as loose equipment floated violently through the corridor. Rifles spun through the air. Blood drifted in red clouds. For several terrifying seconds, the Argus became silent except for heavy breathing and distant metallic groans. Then gravity returned all at once. Bodies crashed back onto the floor. One Marine's neck snapped instantly. Lena pulled herself upright, coughing blood. "We're close to engineering." The corridor ahead flickered with unstable golden light. The Helios core chamber. The oldest part of the ship. The forbidden part. Massive blast doors blocked the entrance, covered in warning symbols older than most human colonies. Adrian stared at the ancient markings painted across the metal. "Do not activate during reality cascade events." Mara looked at him nervously. "What exactly does that mean?" Nobody answered. Because deep down, they already knew. Another impact shook the carrier. The walls around them began changing shape slowly. Metal stretched like soft flesh. Human faces pushed outward from beneath the floor panels. Screaming silently. One face opened its eyes and looked directly at Adrian. He recognized the man immediately. Navigator Brooks. The crewman who died on the bridge. His face melted back into the metal. The whispers returned instantly. "You cannot leave." The blast doors behind them bulged inward violently. Something enormous had reached the corridor. Heavy footsteps echoed through the darkness. Slow. Deliberate. Each impact shook the floor beneath their boots. Then the corridor lights died completely. Only the golden glow from the H. The sound of breathing grew louder inside the darkness behind them. Not human breathing. Something deeper. Wet. Ancient. Then two enormous white eyes opened at the far end of the corridor. Higher than the ceiling itself. The Marines froze. Whatever stood in the darkness was too large to fit inside the ship. And yet somehow it was already there. A low metallic growl rolled through the corridor walls. The black shadows around the creature began twisting together into human shapes. Dozens of them. Crew members. Marines. Children. People Adrian recognized. All staring silently toward the survivors. One figure stepped forward from the darkness. Captain Noah Reyes. The legendary commander lost during the Europa disaster. Or something wearing his face. Half his body looked human. The other half moved like liquid shadow stitched together with bone-white light. His dead eyes locked onto Adrian. "You should have listened." Lena raised her rifle instantly. "You're not Reyes." The thing smiled faintly. "No." Its voice echoed from every wall simultaneously. "But he is still screaming inside me." Several Marines backed away in terror. Adrian forced himself to speak. "What happened to Earth?" The corridor became silent. Even the whispers stopped. Then Reyes pointed slowly toward the stars outside the carrier. "We opened the gate." A pause. And something answered. The massive shape behind him moved closer. The corridor walls bent outward around its body. Reality itself looked unstable near the creature. Metal stretched. Gravity warped. One Marine suddenly began floating upward uncontrollably while screaming. His body twisted violently in the air. Then exploded into black ash. Mara whispered. "Oh God." Reyes stepped closer. "The universe is not empty." The lights flickered again. "It is hungry." Then the giant thing behind him smiled. And the entire carrier began falling toward Earth. Warning sirens erupted across the Argus as the carrier tilted violently toward Earth. Outside the shattered observation ports, the planet filled the sky. Black oceans. Burning clouds. Continents covered in glowing crimson veins pulsing like arteries beneath skin. The entire world looked alive. And awake. Adrian grabbed the emergency rail as gravity shifted again. How long until impact? Mara checked the failing navigation display. Her face lost all color. 11 minutes. The corridor shook violently. Behind them, the massive creature continued crawling through the darkness inside the ship. Entire sections of the carrier folded inward as reality bent around its body. Reyes walked calmly beside the nightmare like a prophet guiding a god. "You cannot escape the signal," he whispered. Lena aimed directly at him. "Shut up." She fired instantly. The magnetic round passed through Reyes' chest. For 1 second his body dissolved into black smoke. Then reformed completely. Still smiling. Human weapons cannot kill what lives between worlds. The Helios core chamber finally appeared ahead of them. Ancient blast doors towered over the corridor, glowing faintly with golden symbols older than the carrier itself. Unlike the rest of the ship, the darkness had not touched these doors. The black fluid stopped several meters away from the chamber entrance. As if afraid. Adrian noticed immediately. So it does fear something. Mara rushed toward the control console beside the doors. Core systems still respond. The heavy blast doors began opening slowly. Golden light flooded across the corridor. Warm. Violent. Wrong. The survivors shielded their eyes instinctively. Behind them, the giant creature stopped moving. For the first time since the nightmare began. The thing hesitated. Reyes' smile disappeared. And deep inside the walls of the carrier, billions of whispering voices suddenly screamed together. "Do not wake the sun." The Helios core chamber stretched before them like the inside of a dying star. Massive golden rings rotated slowly around a sphere of burning white energy suspended in the center of the room. Ancient symbols crawled across the walls like living equations. The air itself vibrated with power. Adrian felt pressure building behind his eyes the moment he stepped inside. The Helios core was not technology. It was controlled catastrophe. Mara rushed toward the main terminal while sparks erupted from overloaded consoles around the chamber. Core temperature rising. Lena and the remaining Marines sealed the blast doors behind them. The instant the doors closed, the whispers outside became muffled. Distant. But not gone. Heavy impacts slammed against the metal from the other side. Something enormous wanted inside. Adrian stared into the burning sphere at the center of the chamber. Shapes moved within the light. Human shapes. Thousands of them. Screaming silently inside the core itself. He stepped back instinctively. "What is this thing?" Mara's voice trembled. The Helios drive bends space by punching through higher dimensional pressure fields. A violent tremor interrupted her. One of the golden rings suddenly accelerated. The entire chamber groaned. Then Adrian heard another voice. Soft. Female. Directly behind him. "You should not be here." He turned instantly. A woman stood near the edge of the chamber wearing an old Earth military uniform. Transparent. Almost ghost-like. Her eyes glowed faint gold. Lena raised her rifle. "What the hell is that?" The woman ignored her completely. She looked only at Adrian. "I know you." Adrian frowned. "That's impossible." The woman stepped closer slowly. "I knew another version of you." Silence filled the chamber. Then Mara whispered the word nobody wanted to say. "Timeline." The ghostly woman nodded once. "The Helios core does not travel through space." She looked Tawa. The golden sphere at the center of the chamber expanded violently. Energy arced across the rotating rings like miniature suns tearing themselves apart. Warning symbols flooded every console. Mara stared at the readings in horror. "The core is overloading." The ghostly woman grabbed Adrian's arm suddenly. Her hand felt cold enough to burn. "You have to leave this reality now." Another deafening impact shook the chamber. The blast doors bent inward again. Massive claw-like shapes pushed through the cracks in the metal. Black fluid spilled across the floor outside like living oil. Lena and the Marines opened fire through the narrowing gaps. Bright magnetic rounds exploded against the darkness. For a moment, the creatures outside recoiled. Then something huge struck the doors from the other side. The entire chamber trembled. One Marine lost balance and fell directly into the outer energy field surrounding the Helios core. He never screamed. His body stretched into white light and vanished instantly. Adrian backed away from the sphere. What happens if the core breaches? The ghost looked toward the burning light. Her expression became distant. Everything nearby stops belonging to one universe. Mara whispered. That's not possible. The ghost gave a weak smile. Neither is what's happening to Earth. Suddenly every screen inside the chamber activated simultaneously. Different versions of reality flashed across them. Earth frozen beneath endless ice. Earth consumed by oceans of black flesh. Earth burning beneath red stars. Earth completely empty. Human cities abandoned beneath silent skies. Then another image appeared. A version of Earth where humanity had won. Massive warships filled orbit around a blue untouched planet. Children played beneath sunlight. People laughed. Alive. Normal. Adrian stepped closer to the screen. What reality is that? The ghost stared at it silently. The last one. The chamber lights. The temperature inside the chamber dropped instantly. Frost spread across the metal floor beneath the invading darkness. Even the Helios core dimmed slightly as the creature entered. It did not walk. Reality bent around it. A massive shape formed slowly inside the black smoke towering nearly to the ceiling. Too many limbs. Too many eyes. Its body shifted constantly between solid matter and living shadow. Human faces moved beneath its skin like trapped souls pressing against glass. Thousands of them. Screaming silently. Adrian felt blood running from his nose. The thing's presence alone was tearing at the human mind. Lena forced herself to raise her rifle. Fire. The chamber erupted with magnetic gunfire. Rounds passed through the creature's body like bullets through smoke. The thing barely reacted. Then one of its enormous white eyes opened fully. Every electronic system in the chamber exploded at once. Lights burst. Consoles melted. Several Marines collapsed screaming as blood poured from their ears. The creature focused on Adrian. And suddenly he saw memories that were not his own. Entire civilizations dying beneath black skies. Alien worlds consumed by living oceans of flesh. Stars going dark one by one across endless galaxies. Humanity was not the first species this thing had found. Not even close. The whispers returned inside his skull. We are the end between worlds. The creature extended one enormous arm toward the Helios core. The golden sphere reacted violently. Energy spiraled through the chamber. The ghostly woman turned toward Adrian desperately. If it reaches the core, every reality connected to humanity dies. Mara stared at the failing systems. The drive is charging itself. How long? 2 minutes. The chamber shook again. Outside the broken walls of the carrier, Earth filled the sky like a living god waiting below them. And across the surface of the planet, one enormous eye slowly opened. The eye covering Earth opened completely. Even from orbit, Adrian could feel it watching them. The oceans below shifted unnaturally. Entire continents pulsed like breathing organs beneath the clouds. The planet was alive. And it knew they were trying to escape. Inside the Helios chamber, the creature moved closer toward the core. Reality distorted around every step it took. Metal walls bent outward. Gravity twisted violently. One surviving Marine suddenly began aging in front of everyone. His hair turned white. His skin collapsed inward. Within seconds he crumbled into dust. Mara backed away from the failing consoles in horror. The dimensional field is collapsing. The ghostly woman grabbed Adrian again. You still don't understand what Earth has become. The creature paused, as if listening. Then billions of voices whispered together inside the chamber. Home. The word echoed through every surface of the carrier. Adrian looked toward the burning Helios core. What are you? The ghost stared silently at the creature. Then she answered. It is not one being. A pause. It is every civilization that ever opened the gate. The chamber fell silent. Even Lena stopped firing for 1 second. The ghost pointed toward the darkness moving beneath the creature's skin. Every species that touched the signal became part of it. Human faces pushed outward beneath the black surface briefly before disappearing again. The gate was never a bridge. Another violent tremor shook the chamber. It was bait. The giant entity suddenly screamed. Not from pain. From excitement. Because outside the carrier, thousands of living structures surrounding Earth began awakening together. Their white eyes opened across the darkness of space like stars turning evil. The Helios core reached maximum charge. Golden light flooded the chamber. Mara looked up from the dying console. We have one jump left. Adrian stared at Earth one final time. The smile stretched across Earth's surface slowly. Cloud systems twisted into the shape of enormous human lips visible from orbit. Several Marines fell to their knees instantly. One began praying. Another started laughing uncontrollably. Adrian forced himself to look away. No human mind was meant to see a planet smile. The giant creature inside the chamber moved faster suddenly. Black tendrils exploded outward from its body toward the Helios core. Lena fired continuously while screaming at the survivors to move. Get to the core. The remaining Marines dragged wounded crew members across the collapsing chamber floor. Behind them, the darkness consumed everything it touched. Metal dissolved into black ash. Reality itself looked unstable near the creature. Entire sections of the chamber flickered between different versions of existence. Adrian saw impossible visions around him. Dead Earth. Frozen Earth. Earth covered by endless machines. Earth without humanity. Then another vision appeared briefly. A version where the Argus never escaped. The carrier crashed directly into Earth's oceans. And the planet opened. Something beneath the crust looked upward through billions of eyes. The vision vanished instantly. Mara reached the final control console near the Helios core. Her hands trembled violently over the activation sequence. If we fire this thing near Earth. She swallowed hard. We could rip open every connected reality. The ghostly woman stepped beside her. If you stay, there will be no realities left to save. Another massive impact shook the chamber. The creature had nearly reached the core now. Human faces stretched outward beneath its skin screaming silently. Among them Adrian recognized President Mercer. Captain Reyes. And thousands more. Still alive inside it somehow. The whispers returned. Softer now. Almost loving. You are lonely creatures. Black tendrils wrapped around the outer ring of the heli. Adrian slowly stepped toward the Helios core. The golden light illuminated blood across his uniform and ash across his hands. Behind him, the chamber was collapsing into madness. The creature continued spreading through the carrier like a living infection. The walls breathed. Gravity pulsed. Time itself felt unstable. But Adrian's voice remained calm. Prepare the jump. Mara stared at him in disbelief. We don't even know where the core will send us. Adrian looked toward Earth one final time. We know where staying leads. Lena helped the last surviving Marine reach the center platform. Only 7 people remained alive, out of nearly 12,000 aboard the Argus. The ghostly woman watched them silently. Then Adrian noticed something strange. She was fading. Her outline flickered like weak signal interference. Mara noticed it too. "What's happening to you?" The woman looked toward the Helios core. "I was never fully real." Adrian frowned. "What are you?" For the first time, sadness crossed her face. "I am what remains of another timeline." The chamber shook violently again. The creature screamed as golden energy burned across its black flesh. The Helios core was hurting it. But not enough. Outside the carrier, Earth's atmosphere opened slowly like a giant eye blinking apart. Something enormous was rising beneath the clouds. Bigger than continents. Older than planets. Lena stared through the shattered observation port. "What the hell is that?" The ghost whispered the answer. "The thing that found humanity first." Suddenly every screen inside the chamber activated again. A message appeared across all of them simultaneously. "Not escape. Invitation." The creature smiled. Then thousands of human voices spoke together from inside its body. "You were never running from us." A pause. "You were leading us home." The Helios core reached critical overload. Golden light consumed the chamber. Reality began tearing apart around the survivors. And somewhere beneath Earth's oceans, something ancient finally awakened completely. The thing that found humanity first. The Helios core detonated into light. Not fire. Not explosion. Light. Pure golden energy erupted through the chamber and tore reality open like fragile paper. The Argus disappeared. For one impossible second, Adrian existed everywhere at once. He saw endless versions of humanity scattered across infinite realities. Worlds where humans ruled the stars. Worlds where humanity went extinct before reaching space. Worlds where Earth had never existed at all. Then he saw them. The ancient beings. Not one species. Not one civilization. A force older than galaxies themselves. Moving between realities like predators swimming beneath black water. Searching. Feeding. Waiting for intelligent life to open the gates. And humanity had opened one. The visions shattered violently. The survivors collapsed onto cold metal flooring as the carrier reassembled itself somewhere else in existence. Emergency lights flickered weakly overhead. Smoke drifted through the ruined chamber. The Helios core was dead. Completely burned out. For several seconds, nobody moved. Then Mara slowly lifted herself from the floor. Did we make it?" Adrian forced himself toward the shattered observation window. Outside the carrier stretched an unfamiliar star system. A blue sun. 3 massive moons. And dozens of warships surrounding them instantly. Human warships. Massive black carriers marked with symbols Adrian had never seen before. Weapons locked onto the Argus immediately. Warning signals flooded every surviving console. Lena grabbed her rifle weakly. "Those aren't our ships." The ghostly woman was gone. Only faint golden particles drifted through the chamber where she had stood. Then a transmission appeared across the bridge monitors. A human face stared back at them. Older. Scarred. Wearing dark military armor. The officer's expression changed the moment he saw Adrian. Shock. Fear. Recognition. The thing that found humanity first. The whisper inside Adrian's mind became louder. Closer. "We found you." Across the Resistance flagship, alarms screamed endlessly while soldiers rushed across the command deck. High Commander Solon looked directly at Adrian through the transmission. You brought it here. Before Adrian could answer, the stars outside changed. Space itself cracked open above the fleet. A massive black fracture spread across the darkness like shattered glass. Then the eyes appeared. Thousands of glowing white eyes opening inside the rupture. Watching. Waiting. The entire resistance fleet opened fire instantly. Blue plasma storms filled space. Missiles crossed the void like comets. But the darkness inside the fracture kept growing. And from within it, a colossal shape slowly emerged. Larger than moons. Larger than cities. Its surface shifted between flesh and shadow while millions of human faces screamed beneath its skin. Adrian felt terror unlike anything he had ever known. Because he recognized one of the faces. His own. The creature smiled. Then every screen aboard every ship activated simultaneously. Earth appeared again. The giant eye covering the planet stared directly at humanity. And a voice echoed across the stars. Soft. Endless. Loving. You crossed the universe searching for a home. A pause. So we became one for you. Entire warships began disappearing into black ash around the fleet. Reality itself started collapsing near the rupture. Soldiers screamed. Stars vanished. The end had finally arrived. High Commander Solon turned toward his crew. His expression became calm. Resolved. All fleets prepare final burn. Adrian stared at him. What are you doing? Solon looked toward Earth one last time. Humanity survived for 200 years because we kept running. Another explosion shook the flagship. But eventually. He smiled faintly. You have to turn AR.